Government's doing it all for you. Good morning. Welcome to SJU. It's so good to see you all today, and it's so good to be here with this lovely panel of enlightened and beautiful and intelligent beings. We're going to talk about Bob Iger. We're going to talk about Marvel. We're going to talk about Spider-Man. Just kidding. Dan Murrell is here.
Hello. I'm not Cameron Rice, but that's okay. Yeah. I love Cameron Rice, and I'm glad he got a plug. He's awesome.
Are we restarting? We're restarting. We're back. Yay. That's Dan Murrell, and if you didn't know, we're Fandom. That's Danielle, Radford, Spencer, Gilbert. I'm Roth, Cornet, and now we are going to talk about our week in what did Disney do and how we prefer the business practices of Murdoch's. And then we're going to talk about Succession later. So Disney is burying Fox in a vault because they don't want you to have nice things.
Next to Walt's frozen head.
That's a little bit hyperbolic, perhaps, but we'll talk about this. This is via Vulture. Matt Zoller Seitz investigated how Disney's policy of not allowing catalog titles to screen in as many theaters as affecting 20th Century Fox. So just to set that up and give you the context, I think we all know that Disney has this system of the vault. Right? And the vault, we imagine, is both a real and mythical thing, but figuratively, they hold back their movies and they only release them upon occasion, basically forcing you to buy them and forcing a demand where there may not have otherwise been a demand. Mm-hmm. So controlling the marketplace, as it were, not unlike diamonds. So,
bling bang.
So now that the Fox titles belong to them as well, they're not quite doing that, but they're doing something similar, which they're holding back some of the classic titles from theaters that do first run. So if it's something like, a museum, they'll show films like A Miracle on 34th Street. But if it's a film, if it's a theater that also has first run titles, they are holding them back. So Dan did, for example, to just give you an example of what this would look like, you saw Die Hard last Christmas.
Right. There's a theater here in Los Angeles called the Vista.
Yeah.
And there is a group that does screenings there, like midnight screenings. And a couple years ago, Mara and I went to see Die Hard there. Die Hard is a Fox title, and the way that works is you go and you get the whatever license to show the movie, and you do it. It's repertory screenings.
Yeah.
The way that this would work now under this system, it would seem, and the story goes into like it's enforced some places, it's not enforced some places, is that Disney is basically all of those back catalogs for Fox, because the Vista also during the day is a first-run movie theater, meaning they show movies that are coming out currently. They would not have access to Fox titles, including Die Hard. So that repertory screening of Die Hard would go away.
And it's unclear exactly why they're doing this, because they're not necessarily going to put all of these titles on Disney Plus, which is what you would assume, that they're trying to force you to Disney Plus if you want to see some of these films. And some of the films are films that could belong there because they have purported that it's going to be, that's a crazy angle, what's going on? It's purported to be like a very family-friendly.
We're in a transitional period.
There was a fire.
This is when we get meta, and there was a fire.
We lost our engineer.
Yeah,
there was a fire.
A lot of things are happening. There's some construction. It's raining. Getting along. It's good. So there are films like Miracle on 34th Street, All About Eve, which is a classic. It is one of, if not the greatest scripts of all time, and you should see that movie. The Sound of Music, things that would belong on the service potentially because it's very family friendly. And then there are movies that don't quite fall into that. The Revenant, the Simpsons movie even, I guess would belong there. Spencer will tell me he is a human Simpson. Thin Red Line, things like that, and Die Hard. So are they just using the same methodology of trying to create demand where there may not have otherwise been demand? Or is this just what Disney do?
Probably, yeah. I imagine they've acquired all this stuff and they're just like, let's just ruin everything until we can figure out how to make money off of it.
Good.
Like, let's err on the side of not giving people what they want so we can charge them later. Because it's complicated. I'm sure there's a billion moving pieces, and like putting repertory theaters on the map is probably pretty low. It's all Disney Plus all the time. So let's just everyone get in the vault Everything's in the vault until further notice.
Yeah. Well,
Just kind
Is
of
it a
hoarding.
frozen vault?
Yes, just kind of like hoarding and sitting on it. I don't. Again, Disney Plus is their priority. It is whether it is their big thing. It is what they have been looking at. They just launched that that tweet storm with 200 and whatever tweets that were just like, remember this movie, remember this movie, remember this TV show, remember this thing. And so they're not in the business of keeping small theaters open, unfortunately.
Well, it could also be a strategic move. I was reading in the same story from Vulture, which goes deep into it. It was a really interesting read. They were talking about Alien. There was a smaller repertory house that had Alien scheduled to show, where they said, sorry, you can't do that. However, the Fathom event that Alien was doing is going forward as planned for the anniversary. So that's a case of just like, well, okay, this is they're allowing this one to go, but this one not to go. And so it's this idea of like, before, when you were anybody, just had this kind of, if you could go through the process and get a repertory screening, it now seems like it's a much more complicated process, and one that it seems like, and I hate to say it, the smaller theaters, the ones who actually need these screenings the most, maybe aren't going to get, because this is a great boost of supplemental income for those theaters, particularly ones, as I mentioned, like the Vista, that run one movie for a week or two or three at a time. It's a smaller neighborhood theater. It's great to have that boost of nights and weekends. You can do these other screenings, and it helps. It's an extra source of income.
Yeah, particularly since they're competing with these chains, right? And they're not necessarily going to have the biggest titles.
And one of the biggest bummers in reading the article, it is great, is that they're actually revoking it. So people have had programs like planned and movies planned. They've been advertised, tickets have been sold, and now their reps are like, "Sorry, you're not gonna be able to do that now." And sometimes with very short notice.
Yeah.
Boo. Also, boo, Spencer.
Sure.
Weigh in with your boo.
Yeah.
This bums me out because we just named a bunch of movies that I legitimately think it's a very special experience to see on the big screen.
Oh yeah, Alien with the sound design alone would be incredible.
And All About Eve. I mean, even Miracle on 34th Street. I saw, this isn't one of theirs, but 2001 on the big screen, and like the 70 millimeter print and things like that really do affect your perception of the film and where it sits historically.
And also very fun screenings, like when you go, they've got those Hollywood Cemetery screenings where you go and it's a big picnic and everyone's laid out and like you're drinking and like you're eating and you're snacking, and I love them.
Who wants to see a movie outside when you're cold, sitting on a grave?
It's an experience. You're not on the grave. You're by the grave.
Someone's hummus.
But that gets to show you how confusing it is, because supposedly that's one of the exceptions.
Yeah.
You can do an outdoor screening in a public place, but you can't do a screening here. I think they knew what they were tapping into, because the other thing that the story mentions is the one movie that they have not touched or said anything about is Rocky Horror Picture Show. Because they know that this is going to blow up so much bigger if all of a sudden all of these midnight screenings of Rocky Horror that have been going on for 40 years the clamp is going down. So I think this is an indication that they know exactly what they're doing and how to not cause an even bigger uproar. Because if they all of a sudden start clamping down on Rocky Horror Picture Show, that becomes a huge story. And I mean, that is a dedicated cult of a fandom that just would go into uproar.
I mean, now is where we confess, isn't it? Like, I definitely, in 7th grade, went every weekend to the Rocky Horror Picture Show and dressed up and knew for like a period of time. Gosh,
that's great.
You're mocking me.
No, every rap party that we ever did for my theater always ended at Rocky Horror Picture Show. Oh yeah.
Did you dress up?
No. Because we would literally be leaving and like having to put on our street clothes. We still had like all of our costume makeup on and all of our hair and stuff done. So it was just too much to bring like an extra gothy thing. Plus sometimes our Mrs. Korn was whack, and so she would like come with, and she'd be like, "Well, while you guys are doing this, I'm going to go watch Angels in America." And it's like, stop spying on us, Miss Korn.
Why is Miss Korn even there?
Thank you.
Is my question to you.
Thank you.
That's
what
bullshit.
was the midnight showing of Angels in America?
What's
up with
and
that?
Angels in America, the play?
Yeah.
Because it was otherwise an HBO
series.
I'm confused by Miss Korn, and I don't think she was being honest with you. I don't think that's where she was at all. It's just a step to the left. Okay. Spencer?
Yes?
Is The Simpsons a movie that belongs on Disney Plus? You were supposed to tell us.
Yeah, The Simpsons are on Disney Plus.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yep.
It is technically on Disney. Is it on Disney Plus? Because Simpsons the movie is different than Simpsons the show.
It is. It's a movie.
I thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, and you will in the comments. This is a little sidebar that is actually going somewhere, which is, I thought Simpsons the show was going to be on the Universal or Warner Brothers.
No,
Disney. It's
Disney.
It's on Disney.
They own it.
So that's on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Every episode, day one. It'll be
Okay.
there.
Every episode day one, you should probably subscribe to Disney Plus. And that's been our paid advertisement.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, the Vulture story goes deep. There's just one last thing, just to show how hard it is for this to be enforced. Is there's a theater owner that they interview, who runs a smaller theater, who doesn't get first run movies until weeks and weeks and weeks after. Like she said, like, I didn't get A Star Is Born until after the Oscars, and does these repertory screenings, and was turned down by Disney because even though she showed A Star Is Born, weeks after its initial release, they still said that she was a first run theater. This is where it gets tough.
So, like, here's what I'm trying to parse, though. What is the motivation? Because that's what's kind of unclear. If they're not trying to push it, if it's just, is it just the vault methodology? Is it that they are trying to push some of these? I mean, a lot of these are not on Disney Plus.
It's like the redesign of Box Office Mojo. It doesn't make any sense, and I think it's just to be corporate.
Which brings us to a segment I like to call, we're going to let Danielle,
Danielle. Whoa.
because he needs it. Tell us about Box Office Mojo, Danielle.
It's almost useless now. They redesigned it. Which I don't mind a redesign, but they stripped the functionality out of a lot of it. They put a lot of the functionality behind a paywall, which is annoying, but still, at least it could be useful. But they got rid of a lot of it.
Even if you pay.
But even if you pay. Like a bunch of the stuff, we got rid of the more obscure stuff. Like, well, guess what? The more obscure stuff is stuff that allows me to do things like charting, which I can now have all of the basic numbers. But like the stuff like the estimated tickets sold and like easy to find inflation adjusted numbers by genre, by actor, gone. Like not behind a paywall, gone. So, this is going to be an interesting transition because they basically stripped the functionality out for a lot of the stuff that I enjoy putting together for charting that makes it special because corporate, because they wanted to hide it behind IMDb Pro.
Well, they're trying to push the
site.
Subscription.
Right, which is fine.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. Like I said, that's annoying, but like, why strip out? It's like when Apple did with Final Cut Pro. If you want to make it whatever more consumer friendly, that's fine. But when they did that, they stripped out so much stuff that made it an actually professional product that people use, that they alienated that entire base. And I think that's what Box Office Mojo has done with this redesign. They've alienated everyone that used that site as like this granular deep dive into like these obscure facts and figures. And they're like, well, we did market research and we got rid of some of the lesser used things. Like those lesser used things was why people like me and people in the media. I saw Scott Mendelson from Forbes, who's another great box office analyst, and I'm sure uses it all the time. I was talking about how this would impact him. Edgar Wright talked about how he didn't, like when just like, oh, we're getting rid of the niche stuff. Like that's your fan base.
Yeah.
Those are your users. Those are the ones who come to your site all the time.
And there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
Not for. I mean, there are a bunch of other sites that do box office stuff. Sites like The Numbers, which I already used, and ComScore does some stuff, and I already use them. But Box Office Mojo was the only place for me to get a lot of these really complicated things. And I know that, like, well, the interface was out of date. I agree, but I don't mind if you change the interface. Even the functionality you can adjust, but stripping out information. I don't get it.
It's interesting because that's IMDb, which is owned by Amazon,
Right.
Yeah.
which is one of our two overlords, as we are quickly discovering. But I am curious because the IMDb Pro, you have to pay for IMDb Pro if you want to do things like if you work as a booker for things and you want to find out who someone's like agent is, and you want to be able to ask that agent to say, come to your screening at the New Art, which you can no longer do. But the Box Office Mojo piece, it makes a bit of sense to me. I'm just going to say, from their perspective, it's a pain in the butt. From a business perspective, to bundle that in, because you would think that people in the industry that actually need this for a work-related purpose may have the money to pay for that service and may need it enough that they will. we have a pro account. We'll go and get it for you. But my point with that is, why then strip away some of the functionality that people
just put that behind a paywall?
Yeah,
it's to me, and I'm going to sound like I'm going to say this, and then I'll go feel the burn. But this is the danger of trusting on the kindness of corporations, which is like, I think both of these stories are an example of a service that was being offered by a subsidiary of another company that for no discernible reason has now gone away, and with no substitute placed in, just because, well, this is a business strategy. It's like Box Office Mojo was providing service and information for free to people, and now that information is not available. For what reason? Partially to hide behind a paywall, but there's no reason to get rid of some of that other information.
That's
other than
we
did
part.
A survey of users, and we decided that these were the functional, these were the things that aren't necessary. It's just like, well, you didn't ask me. I don't know what users they surveyed, because I go there damn near every day. Nobody ever asked me shit. Sorry, and I would have told you. And it's like this idea of
the last time you yelled at Amazon, stuff did happen. You remember you got sent a package.
That's true. I got I did. But
so Dan might be changing this right now.
Can you please change box, or at least just give back all the stuff that you could do. I'll pay. I will. I'll pay. If I need to pay, I'll pay.
But it's a business need. Like, we would get there. Like, honestly.
I need it. I need it to do my job here.
And a lot of other people do as well. Like, you're not the only one. Even if it's not for, like, a fun show that you're putting together, people do use those numbers for analytics.
Yeah, they do.
But the interesting thing to me here is that they would take away some of the functionality that the people you are clearly targeting, which are professionals in the industry, you're targeting them just like IMDb Pro is.
Right.
No casual viewer really needs IMDb Pro. You need it if you need that name of the agent or the PR rep. Why strip away the functionality? I find that fascinating. Leave your conspiracy theories and your tinfoil hats in the comments below. I will say this, Dan, it's really frustrating and annoying, and every time I go to a New York Times or Post article right now, or Vanity Fair, I get 3 articles before I get blocked, and because you have to subscribe. And I will confess, I'm really of two minds about that, because on the one hand, it's super frustrating as a consumer. And I'm like, I just want to be able to read this article. But on the other hand, these businesses are really failing.
Yeah.
They're really suffering. The people are writers. Lots and lots of writers are losing their jobs. We're losing a lot of really great voices in the world and good reporting. And so there's another part of me, and it's only going to get worse. So there's another part of me that understands subscription bundles and this play to try and generate any kind of revenue. And IMDb Pro just might be in the same position, though Amazon certainly, Bezos has enough money to launch 10 rockets today if he wants to, and I believe he is. That's like, I get why they're pushing subscriptions.
Jeff Bezos' pocket change would keep Box Office Mojo free to the public in its full functionality forever.
But they have to justify
because on a spreadsheet, it's a money loser probably.
Yeah.
You're like, well, but it's like...
It's that or shut it down.
Yeah.
As we see everywhere. So it's up to you, Dan.
Or understand that you're providing a resource that people enjoy and say, like, hey, you know what? Like news used to be. Hey, this is a resource and we're going to lose money on it, but the trade-off is we're providing a service. But that's...
But the way...
It's too much like right.
But I think this is an important discussion you guys weigh in too, because this is one where we're supposed to go today. Hi, Joe and Eric. We're doing our own thing. I do think this is an important discussion, and the reason that I do is because I think a lot of us have become very used to having services for free. And the truth is, people can't live for free. Right. Writers can't live for free. The people managing that, the graphic designers, the photographers, the reporting can't be done for free. The money has to come from somewhere, and because it's not coming from advertising, and because there is such a wealth of options, places are shutting down, and it's really a crisis in digital media, and it's really a crisis, certainly, and has long been a crisis for journalism. So I don't blame people for making the subscription play, but when news was free, the calculus there was that the programming that was like the primetime programming that really generated a lot of ad dollars and got great ratings would pay for news, and that calculus doesn't work anymore. Spencer, how do we fix this?
We could bring back the fairness doctrine. We could break up Facebook and Google. It's pretty basic stuff. It's like, this isn't rocket science. We could break up monopolies, and I'll take, there is tons of advertising spending. It's just all collected by Facebook and Google, who do no journalism but make money off of it, by linking to it.
And they're doing an even a harsher thing actually to sites right now. I don't know if you've noticed this. When you search something on Google, it'll bring up a box that has like an excerpt of the article. So if you are searching a question like, how do I stop coughing at night? 7 times a night, every night for the last 2 weeks. And it'll bring up like the box, but that means you're not clicking out.
Yeah, it's like a drop down thing. And then
it means you're not clicking out to that site, and they're not getting anything from their work. Danielle, how do we stop Google?
A giant robot made of other robots. They've taken over the entire world. I don't know how that we can stop
We'll have to form Voltron.
We have to form Voltron. There's no other way. One of the interesting things, because something that's coming up in California now is that bill they passed, AB 5. So we're talking about the way that these newsrooms and digital journalism is shrinking. One of those means is that they're not hiring as many people to be in like a permanent part to be a staff writer. And so they're using a lot of freelancers. Like I myself am freelance. A lot of people that I know are freelance. So now with AB 5, and I'm fine because I think we're broadcast, for a lot of people who work print, what you do is you get like your major outlet, and they're the ones you do the majority of your work for, and then you go and work other outlets. That's one of the ways that you can do it and still make it where it's viable. So now what's happening is they're going to limit you to 35 articles a year per outlet that you work for.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that starts in January. And so in the state of California.
No, really?
How's BuzzFeed going to survive?
Exactly.
BuzzFeed's not surviving. It's not funny. I mean, like, I'm sorry. I just know so many people that have lost their jobs.
No, this is going to be really, like in January, people are already trying to figure out how to make it work. And what that also means is that there are some outlets now, even ones who are based in California, who are no longer accepting freelancers from California because they don't want to be in charge of doing that math. They're the ones who get the fine, not the freelancer. Sites like Rev, which does transcribing, like it's a transcribing service, I've used it before, they are no longer going to be accepting contractors from California. They don't want to do the math for, and that, again, I don't remember how many minutes you can do with them. And the bill is supposed to be to encourage these places so that no one's permalance, which is when you are, it's a thing that staffing agencies use a lot. You are someone who works there. You have to be there at a certain time. You are essentially an employee without any of the benefits. And that's what they are trying to get people to but newsrooms they can't hire someone.
They can't afford it. I mean, if you, we're going to do a bit I like to call, I binged it. It's late, but I binged it. Succession. I am obsessed. As I have mentioned a lot to these people, I do not sleep anymore because I cough all night long. So I just watched all of Succession last week. And it's really fascinating because it's all about the media sector. And it's basically the Murdochs. I made that joke earlier, but it's basically riffing on them. But one of the things that happens is there's a company, like a digital company, that one of the members of the family wants to invest in and the other does not. And so what they do is they gut it. And it's exactly what we see happen all the time. They gut it, they break it apart into pieces, and they hire one editor, and then they rely on a bunch of freelancers from all over the place. And that's how they would get away with it. They would just use different freelancers from different areas that are not necessarily in the state and pay them like $10 a post to do okay writing. And we're just like all suffering for it. So Dan.
Yes.
All that said, are you going to subscribe? No, I'm just kidding.
I have to.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah. Well, we'll
expense
it. Yeah.
But I'm now going to be paying money for an inferior product.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
They're forcing people that need that site, and I know it's a small number of people, but again, this is your base of users. They're forcing people that need that site for their jobs to pay money for an inferior product.
Yeah, that I don't get. That's super befuddling to me, is like they're targeting you to pay for it and then took away the things that you need. I don't get that.
Because someone did market research. They went to a mall in Minneapolis and talked to somebody that used Box Office Mojo once a month, and they said, I don't care about that stuff, and they strip it out.
Yeah. This has been a random segue with us. It's probably quite personal for a lot of us, probably more us, right? Because we just know a lot of writers, and I've just known so many people in the last 5 years to lose their job. Really talented people, really hardworking people.
And what winds up happening, and this is going to be we're going to see the impact of this, is that because a lot of these newsrooms, they've got their staff, they've had their staff forever, those are their staff. what has been happening in the last couple of years, particularly, our newsrooms are reaching out to people who have other voices. They are reaching out to people of color. They are reaching out to marginalized voices because we're starting to recognize the importance of everyone having a voice. But though a lot of those people aren't being staffed, they are freelance. And so you're actually going to see more than likely some choking off of some marginalized voices and other voices that we don't get to hear as often. It's a bummer.
And on that note, back to our zany show. Spencer, say something funny.
Nope.
Okay, dance for me. As you guys may have noticed, I have not been paying any attention to the news of late because I've been locked in a vault. It's really interesting because, of course, like I see the things that we're talking about on SJU, and I'm like, wow, I'm really out of the loop because I've been locked in a vault, and we've been working on this documentary about Galaxy Quest for finishing it up over the last several months, and we finally finished it. For those of you who came to New York Comic Con to see it with us, thank you very much. It was really great to see everybody there. This is like a big endeavor. That's one of the things that I wanted to talk about today. It's really different than, we've been doing a lot of different things. Did Power Level, Spencer's killed it on that with Billy. And this is really, really different because it was like a massive time investment. It was a bigger endeavor. Dan knows too, has been working on stuff with that. And so like, it's not coming to YouTube. We will keep you informed about what we're working on in terms of where you can see it and when. But right now, the big push is for this Fathom event, which is like a huge deal for us. And we're very, very excited. It's the first time that we've done a feature film. It's our first feature documentary. It's the first time we've had a film in a theater.
Yes.
It's been really crazy.
2 theaters in Little Rock.
Yeah.
Little Rock.
Yeah.
Hometowners showing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's a big deal.
It's
huge.
like a huge deal, and we're so excited. And I will confess, like the people that are supporting it, thank you so much. We've gotten some tweets about people saying they've already bought their tickets, and that really does mean the world to us because like I said, we need the support. We really appreciate and value the support. This is something we've been working really hard on. So we were trying to think like, how can we show our love back? And so what we're going to do is, if you guys have your ticket and you take a picture of yourself with your ticket and you tweet it at us, and you can do like a question or a request, we'll call out your names and show your picture here on SJU, and we will be taking some either requests, like if Dan needs to tell you why Jurassic World is the #1 movie of all time, he may do that.
Fair warning, I did that for Joe. Joe was doing something for charity, and I did a bunch of those, so I'm just going to cannibalize all those.
Yeah, he's just going to repeat what he already said.
If you want to get fresh content, then don't ask me that question.
You can ask a new question of Dan, or you can ask a fan question that we'll all answer, or request, or things like that. But we'll definitely at least call you out and like be part of the SJ family as you are. I think Joe had the better take on that, which was be part of the crew, which I like because it's Galaxy Quest. So yes,
It's
please.
Intimacy behind a paywall, as it should be.
Well, anyway, do that. It really does mean a lot to us. Thank you, Spencer. Not helpful. It's not behind a paywall at all. We're right here. So anyway, long story endless.
It's just like a whammy.
Yeah.
Like every once in a while, it pops up. Whammy.
Yeah. You're like the brother I never needed, but already had, who I love and adore. But yes, I do, actually. You all know he's my favorite. Just kidding. But he is. So yes, please, your picture with the ticket, go ahead and tweet it at us with the hashtag #NeverSurrender. It will be exciting, be part of the Screen Junkies fam, and we'll have more stuff coming up like that in the interim and be calling people out. I'm going to go on Twitter while we're yakking it up and see if I can't hustle down a few people to call out in the interim. Or maybe Ryan, could you do that for me and then Slack that to me?
Yeah.
Well, you could just, I think there's some people that have already said they bought their tickets. So
You want me to find people who have said they bought their tickets already?
yeah, and then you
Or
just
if they're sending us pictures now with questions and stuff.
and stuff like that, shoot that to me on Slack, and we'll go from there. Now we're gonna talk about more Disney business.
Is there any other business?
No, but it all reminds me of Succession because I got it on the brain. So this is via Variety and THR. Jeph Loeb has left Marvel TV, and this, if you don't know, is salty. It's so salty. Like it sounds
it is.
really boring, but it is so salty.
There's some hot gossip.
It's some hot gossip. I'm like, oh promotion because he and Kevin Feige notoriously did not get along at all. And there was like an iron curtain. What we call it, an iron curtain.
An iron fist.
An iron fist. Thank you. Up people's butts. And in between Marvel TV and Marvel Studios, which was the movies, but they're now also making TV for Disney Plus. So those lines have gotten a little murky. Plus, Kevin Feige's got a new job.
Yep.
Danielle, tell me about this. What do you think of this hot goss?
I think we all, once we knew that Kevin Feige is now in charge of most of Marvel, we knew that this was going to happen. I think we were kind of speculating, like, I think that Loeb's just going to be out because they are two people who do not enjoy the experience of each other.
Yeah.
Nice
they do not.
Yeah.
I don't think that Feige had much. I mean, even though Jeph Loeb, to his credit, he was the one behind like the Netflix series, which people really liked for a long time.
3 out of 10.
Yeah.
Weren't bad.
Well, it's hard to make things. I don't know.
That's true.
But Dan, in the car, we carpooled this morning with Joe Starr and had an interesting theory that I agree with. Again, this is going to relate to succession because when you're going to give somebody a new job, you give them a little bit of training first. You put them in a little bit of training first. So the question is Kevin Feige being groomed ultimately to take over Iger's position?
I think so.
Yeah.
Really?
Talk about that.
Well, because
Theorize.
This is because when they said he was getting into Star Wars before all this broke, I was like, oh, okay, he's going more into like he's like narrowing down. He's going to be like a laser. He's going to be laser focused on like a specific projects now. But now that he's like in charge of everything, it seems like a test run to me of just like managing multiple divisions, different forms of media. Seems like the kind of thing that Bob Iger does.
Yeah, 100%.
And he's supposedly retiring soon in a few years. And
2021?
2021, I think, is like where he signed a contract to 2021 at least, and they're like speculation is that he's getting ready to hang it up. So it seems like he would seem to be the natural choice to take over overall strategy because even. On charting with the information that I can't get anymore, we showed like Disney's how much they put into movies and how much they've gotten out of movies, and even though there have been way more Marvel movies, like easily the most like successful was the MCU.
Yeah.
I mean, by far, as far as what was put in and the money that came back worldwide, it was a crazy amount of money, even compared to what they put in. So. Yeah, if it's something he's interested in, it seems like a move that you would make if you were like, okay, we're going to get you up to speed. And, this is a big empire, but there may be a bigger one, no pun intended, for you to be the head of. Yeah, I don't know.
I think that's a really smart assessment, and now it's my 100% theory about what's happening because before that, my 100% theory was that eventually he was going to take over for Star Wars, but this is a much bigger play, ultimately, if that's the end game. What do you think? Do you think he's a killer? Do you think Feige's enough of a killer to be an Iger? No,
I mean, you have to have some understanding of humanity to tell good stories, I think, and to get to the emotional core of how of people, and I think that's probably a different skill set. I actually have no idea what a Disney CEO does day to day. Like, I imagine you're just at Bohemian Grove, doing human sacrifice, eating babies or whatever, and then you you make a deal with the Prime Minister of Sweden to
owls, a lot of owls.
Yeah, because you each have blackmail on each other. Like it's so different from like we got to break this script, like we got to find out what to do with Mr. Fantastic or something like that. Yeah. That like I wonder if Kevin Feige wants to or is interested in that because he seems like a nerd and a fan and a storyteller at heart, and being a CEO just seems like not any of those things.
I think studios go through different iterations and things. Like lately, the studio head job has been very corporate, very business driven, and it always has to be to a certain extent. But you can always hold out hope, maybe, that they've seen what he did with Feige, and they're like, oh wait, well here's a guy who was the head of Marvel, who was like the business guy, but was creatively involved and was really successful. So maybe they're saying like maybe we could try to pivot Disney, at least at the top, to have a guy who's not just the money guy. He's not just the big picture guy, but he's also a creative himself and can weigh in on things in a more artistic way instead of just like strategy.
Or he takes over for Alan Horn.
Alan Horn, yeah, exactly, which would be...
Yeah. One below, but not as much of like you have to murder people and then bury them and never, ever, 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 ever let anyone know.
You're dealing with the Bahrain situation or whatever instead of X-Men.
His office is the one that doesn't have the trapdoor.
Yeah.
That's the one you don't have to.
I mean, it's interesting to think about because I think what Kevin Feige does in his position now is some blend of that, right? Like, obviously, look, Feige got Ike Perlmutter, who I don't know if you guys know.
Lovely guy.
Lovely guy. And was really a problem in terms of when the MCU was starting because he was notoriously unwilling to pay people the salaries they felt that they wanted and deserved. And Feige got rid of him. You know, he's trapped in some basement in Marvel right now, and who, you know what I mean? And then Jeph Loeb, also they didn't get along. Jeph Loeb is no longer there. So he has some kind of instinct for the tough decisions that need to be made and for eliminating problems as he sees them. So I don't think he's without that. I don't think you can be in the position even that he's in without having even a little bit of that. Like, you cannot be a bunny hugging softie.
Sure.
But I do think he's clearly a creative genius as well. And I feel like it would be so boring to not, am I wrong?
Yeah.
To not at all be engaged in that anymore and just be doing
That's why I think that if he were to take on a role like that, it would be, because I don't think he'd enjoy that.
Yeah.
No.
I think it would be him saying like, okay, well, you know what, I want to, this, now I'm going to have a bigger say if I'm in this role, if it's promoted. I am going to be more involved in Star Wars, not just about marketing and promotion, but let's talk about story. Let's talk about, so in a way he is in charge of Star Wars, but there's also someone else, below him in charge of Star Wars. And I know somebody's like, well, that's movie making by committee, which it can be, but if the person heading the committee has good instincts, which Feige seems to have had thus far, then maybe you can turn that on its ear a little bit. That's the hope. I mean, I don't know. Normally this would be a thing that I would not be in favor of. It's only because he has seemed to have shown a good instinct for when to step in and say, rein somebody in, and when to give a movie to a filmmaker and say, go do your thing. And that's very rare that anyone in charge of something like that could figure out that balance. It's almost impossible to do. It either goes way too far one way or the other. So, I don't know. We'll see. I do feel a little bad for Jeph Loeb, because he's got to feel like, what else could I have done?
Yeah.
I launched, this entirely new universe on Netflix.
It was successful.
That was successful, like Daredevil. I basically resuscitated Daredevil as a character back into the MCU.
Not in the MCU. That's how they kind of undermined him.
It was never full. Like, all of the work that he did, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which was supposed to be connected to the MCU, they basically disappeared from all movies. There was never any lifeline out to them to sort of in any way incorporate that into the movies. All of the Netflix shows were exiled completely. There were hits and misses. There always are. But I do feel bad because he didn't do a bad job.
He did a great
just happened
job.
to be at a time where the power structure was changing, and he's the odd man out.
And he's also an amazing storyteller as well, like someone who is able to take that division and be able to put, he's written some of the best comic books ever. So hopefully, there will be a place for him. I don't know, more CW
Peacock.
shows. Peacock!
HBO Max.
There's places.
They clearly did not either get along on a personal level, or their visions were not aligned, though, because they have not worked together, and they've not really hidden the fact. Feige's been pretty clear that he didn't give a shit about TV, and he was like, don't know, don't care, nothing to do with me. And I'm doing my thing. It's also his thing was a lot to take on as it was, without also trying to sort of solve for television at the same time.
But now he will.
Because he's going to sell for everything as CEO of God. We should talk about horror movies.
All right.
Yeah, it's going to be Halloween next week. We're very excited. Dan, I think we've all probably been watching a lot of horror movies in the lead up. I'm going to put that on you. I think you have. Is that right? Yeah, sure. So Dan's also been doing that. So we'll all tell about a horror movie that we've watched recently. And Dan's going to start.
Oh yeah, well we have so many that we've watched. The one we just watched that I'd never seen before was the original Wicker Man.
Oh God, it's so good.
1973. Yeah, I didn't realize just how much Midsommar owes to that movie. Like it's like homage is almost too nice of a term.
No, it lifted it. It was basically, but I didn't mind that as much when we saw Midsommar because he definitely lifted the formula Ari Aster, and it very much follows the story of the Wicker Man. But it's what he made that about, in my opinion, in terms of being about relationships and empathy and disconnect. I thought was he used that formula to reveal a new aspect of human nature. So it was fine.
Yeah.
No?
They also stole a lot. Both things can be true.
That's our 2-minute review.
Yeah, but
loved it.
super weird, super English.
Yes.
Christopher Lee. If you like Christopher Lee and you haven't seen Wicker Man, go watch Wicker Man because you're going to see a side of Christopher Lee you've never seen before. And he's got the Austin Powers cravat on.
Yeah,
and he's in a kilt and he's dancing around, and I liked it. Yeah. So that was fun. We also watched Halloween Resurrection.
Yes.
AKA Busta Rhymes versus Michael Myers.
Yes.
Which was terrible. It's really bad.
Yes.
Really awful. People forget that Jamie Lee Curtis came back for that one too. And
Yes, she did.
Just bad. Not good. Not good.
No, definitely not. It's really bad.
But somewhat enjoyably bad.
Yeah. It's like
Look
a fun.
up just the Busta Rhymes parts from that. 'Cause
Yeah,
they're fantastic.
My partner in life, we went to see. We've been friends a really, really long time, and so the first movie that we saw together was The Wicker Man and the remake.
Yeah.
Per his recommendation, and I still love him. So that's real love. We have a habit. We like to watch the trailer. We like to go on Amazon Prime and look at like really what look like terrible 90s and 80s movies and just watch the trailers for them because they're amazing. And it makes me want you guys to do so many retro trailers, which would get us no traffic. So that's a bad idea. Let's not do that. But we saw this one that I had never heard of, and I'm going to ask you guys if you had heard of it. It was Renee Zellweger and Bradley Cooper in a possession movie called Case 39.
Never heard of it.
Exactly. It's so weird. This was in 2009. It was like at the height of Renee Zellweger, and Bradley Cooper was very much on the rise. We had never heard of the movie, so we were like, what happened? So we watched the trailer, and it looked like one movie that was interesting, that was like kind of faking you out about who was possessed and who wasn't. And then we watched the movie, and it was 100% clear that it had been almost entirely reshot because what we saw in the trailer did not match the very generic, boring, formulaic, entirely forgettable, now I know why I didn't know about it, Case 39. That said, there's a very creepy little girl. If you happen to like the subgenre of horror, creepy little girl.
I in the vein of Hollywood Resurrection, I a couple days ago watched Carrie 2: The Rage.
Yay!
Yeah, I did. It's that movie was written by olds for youngs. All of the things that they like just kept using slang, but like horribly, kept referencing, you like Sleater Kinney, like referencing these bands in a way that the teens would never do. And I was a teen at that point. Just the great costuming, so goth.
Does she go back to prom? Like, what's the prom?
Okay, so the plot of Carrie 2: The Rage is that there is a girl who is, this is spoilers.
Yeah.
There is a girl who, you know how Carrie's dad is out the picture. Turns out he had another family with a woman, who was just like Carrie's mom because he has a type, and she was locked up. Wait,
who was locked up?
The woman.
Rachel's mom.
Yeah.
The mom, not the kid. Okay.
So the kid is Rachel, and that is his Carrie's half sister.
Okay.
Sue, from the first movie, happens to be working at the high school, sees the girl and is like, I got a hunch, goes and tracks down her mom, all this stuff. The girl is hanging out with the talented London twin, and he's like a jock and she's like a golf, and they have this like point system for you have to try to score with chicks and then you'll win. And so then they get together. He actually really likes her. The popular girls hate that he likes her. And so their thing is they secretly did a sex tape of them and then played it at this huge party.
Oh, that's how you get carried.
That's how you get carried.
That
is how you get carried.
Carried.
Yeah.
You're just asking for it at that point.
Yeah. So they found a way to get them back to prom, I assume.
There's no prom. Okay. It all happens at this like house party.
Is she ever covered in blood?
No, but what happens is she got this tattoo. Her friend committed suicide because of what the boys had done in the beginning, and they had gotten these tattoos together of a rose, and the rose just like starts like the vines from the tattoo cover her body.
Oh, cool. That's you're kind of selling me on it.
I do.
No, I don't know.
It could be on in the background.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like the boys deserve to get carried. Spencer.
Not horror per se, but horror adjacent. I saw Room 237, the documentary about The Shining, and all the different ways that film is interpreted by some interesting sounding people. You know, it could be, is it about the Holocaust? Is it about the moon landing? Who's to say?
Yeah.
But it drives home like how I think it's a brilliant, brilliant film, but also like when there's something that's just stripped down to its essence, like The Shining is, you can put any interpretation you want on it.
Yeah.
I think it is about America and Manifest Destiny, and so that guy was pretty persuasive to me. That like it's about the Native Americans and
The Shining?
Yeah, The Shining.
One sentence on that.
The visual clues of like the big Indian headdress baking powder thing that's pointing at Halloran, the fact that it's built on Indian burial ground. Jack says like, "Oh, white man's burden," and like it's just the spirits of who we've overlooked at the Overlook Hotel. Coming back to haunt us.
That's pretty good.
But I think that you could also make the case. The great thing about the documentary is like, oh, maybe it is about Theseus and the Minotaur. Oh, maybe it is about the moon landing. Maybe it is about this. It was pretty cool.
The Shining is kind of fascinating because it is just whatever you bring to it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Dr. Sleep yet. Have you?
I'm not.
Yeah, kind of interested. I've heard a few things. Do you have one more that you want to recommend to the folks, or not recommend?
Well, not recommend, but one that I realized was so weird. Practical Magic.
I love it. Don't you say a word about Practical Magic.
I love that movie.
I love that movie. Do not say a word.
They have margaritas.
But say words. What was your take?
Told me not to.
What was your take?
Well, no, that's what I thought it was. Like, lime and the coconut margarita, yay! And it's like weird.
And it's like kind of dark and
dark and like, yeah. I don't know.
Sandy Bullock, Nicole Kidman,
They're
Witch
witches and they're
Business, come on! No?
I don't know. It's just not what I was expecting at all. Very dark story about abusive boyfriends and killing them and possession and
Roth's an easy mark for witches.
I'm such an easy mark for witches.
Oh,
She drinks potions every morning.
Yeah, I love Witch Business.
I have crystals
So
in
you
my
didn't
purse.
like it?
I was like, it was very, I don't know, it was very odd for me. I loved Stockard Channing and Diane Wiest.
Oh, yes.
I thought they were great. And I don't know. I may have missed my moment with Practical Magic.
Maybe. It was like, it was very much of its era.
Yeah.
In so many ways.
The window.
It's also Witch Business. Are you a Sabrina?
Oh, it depends on which Sabrina.
The new one on Netflix.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
I would say I'm probably closer to like family Sabrina,
Yeah.
but yes, I love the new Sabrina.
Yeah.
And I also, when I say that, I always have to mention that the showrunner was my roommate in college. So
Oh, wow.
I have to,
There you go.
Full disclosure.
full disclosure. There we go.
Anything that was like blew your mind you thought was great? Besides Practical
From
Magic?
this batch, I liked Zombieland. I didn't get a chance to review it, but I enjoyed Zombieland too.
Yeah.
I liked it about as much as I liked the first one, which was I found the first one enjoyable. So I enjoyed that. Saw Disturbia. Peak LaBeouf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget why Shia LaBeouf was. He was good. He's good.
He's still good.
2006 remake of The Omen, which was wholly unnecessary, but not. I didn't think it was as terrible as people said it was. It was just a recreation of the first movie, but Liev Schreiber's good, and Julie Stein. I don't mind it. Monster House, I enjoyed. Hector Navarro was very nice. He invited Mara and myself to his house to watch it in 3D, which I'm usually not a 3D person, but he's got the setup and everything was very nice. So thank you, Hector. It was a lovely evening. We watched Monster House and. Perfect Stranger, which is more of a thriller with Bruce Willis and Halle Berry.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, wow. That's a very almost like the Net level of like just cyber thriller. It's just like,
I'm into it. So me.
And then there's a review that you're going to see, I think, later today of a movie that's coming out this weekend called Countdown. It's about a killer app. It's not Jexy.
Yeah. So
Double feature.
Full disclosure on that, a friend is in that. So I will not watch your review, and I will instead encourage you to support my friend. Okay, but first support us, more importantly. And I have some names. I segued. So this is Steve Brent. Thank you so much for supporting us and for getting your tickets for Galaxy Quest. The movie's called Never Surrender. Never Surrender. I'm being scolded by our social media. What do we call them? Social media
guru.
Oh, we're not going to do that. Think of a new word immediately.
Minion.
Minion. Ooh.
What's Minion better than Guru?
I don't know, but he's our social media
Rockstar.
None of it is good. Also going to call out a Quinn Martin production. It said, well, guess which smug prick's off to see this when he's on his hots next month, holidays next month. I hope you're the smug prick. Thank you so much. And thank you for hashtagging correctly. And Matthew D. Pistol, thank you. We appreciate you guys. We really appreciate the support. And also, oh gosh, I'm going to try really hard, but you did a Halloween thing here. Kumakstra Spooky #family night?
Sure.
Okay.
But anyway, thank you so much. I hope I nailed that. I'm really not sure, but we really appreciate that. And Stephen Stanton as well. So we will continue to call you guys out on air. Thank you for being part of the Screen Junkies family crew. What are we going with?
Gang.
Gang.
Oh, yeah, because that means we also
gang.
murder people.
Yep.
So thank you. # Never
Blood in, blood
Surrender.
out. Screen Junkies.
Blood in, blood out. I like to say it's not like we're survivors together. We're more like war criminals. Just kidding. That bonds you even more because you have something on each other. I'm kidding. 100% kidding.
How about family?
Family.
When you hear your family, like the Olive Garden.
You let us know what you want to be called in the comments. Do you want to be a gang? Do you want to be a family? Do you want to be a crew?
Just a junkie.
Do you want to just be a junkie? Just
Your fix.
mainline that comedy and that documentary right into your main brains. More of this to come, but I won't be here, so you can thank yourself for that. And bye, Danielle.
Hi.
I love you.
I love you.
Bye. Practical magic is so good.
So
good. Come on. Switches and stuff. Oh, that means I'm done. I'm just really, I don't do that well. You can go ahead and cut out. Yeah, no, I'm afraid. I'll just keep talking though.
Yeah.
This is the thing.
That's perfect.